In this video, we'll cover how to create a knurled feature on a cylinder part. So let's go ahead and create a 2D sketch. I've created a part file using the English inch start template. So I'm going to create a 2D sketch and I'm just going to use my XY plane. And we're first going to just start creating our cylinder. So I'm going to create a 1/2 inch. And let's zoom out a little bit and make the outer diameter 0.75. And not sure what I put in there, but let's take a look. Oh, I have 5 inches and 0.75. Let's adjust that. 0.5. There we go. Finish our sketch. And this is extremely important. You want to make sure when you do your extrude in this case, you want to make sure you do this symmetrically. And you'll see why as we move through creating the knurl pattern. So let's go ahead and change this to 0.75. And let's go ahead and say OK. So at this point, we are going to create a new sketch on this face here. And what we want to do is we're going to actually create the component that's going to be cut through the front, the top of this cylinder. Okay. So think about if you looked at a knurl pattern, it kind of looks like a little bit of a shaped, like a diamond shaped feature. So that's what we're going to create here. So I want to go ahead and change to a construction line. And we're going to learn a new technique here using symmetry. So I have my construction lines that I'm creating. Let's go ahead and just stop right here on our cylinder. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that these two angled lines that are constrained to the center of my cylinder and the outside edge or outside curved portion of my cylinder are symmetric along this line here that I just created. So I'm going to right click and choose Create Constraint. And I'm going to choose Symmetry. I'm going to choose my two lines that I want to keep symmetric and the line that I wanted to keep it symmetric around. So see how now they both have the exact same angle here. And I'm going to make this angle 5 degrees. We're going to make this nice and small because again, we're going to be extruding this kind of diamond shaped tooth around your cylinder. So let's go ahead and zoom in and we're going to remove the construction because now we want to actually create our line that we're going to extrude. And I just want to make sure that I'm selecting, see how we have the green dot there, and that's selecting the intersection there of my construction lines. And just choose somewhere on this part here. Same thing on the other side. And same thing down here. We're just going to create this again. There we go. And let's go ahead and put a a dimension on here. Right click to line. And let's 0.022 sounds and looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and select that. And then I want to make it this line and this line constrained here being the same. Oops, not letting me. Let me see if this is already constrained to that size. All right, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. So let's go ahead and do a quick investigation because you don't want to. And just as a reminder, the little parentheses means it's a reference line. So when I was putting in these lines here, I may have somehow put a constraint in. Oh, I put in a perpendicular constraint. So it's staying perpendicular. So let's go ahead and select this constraint and delete it. There we go. And now let's make these two symmetrical. So when you're creating, I'm glad this actually happened because I want you guys to realize that as you're moving through, sometimes you do accidentally put constraints in. And don't forget about all these tools that you have to correct what you're doing. Don't just start over from what you're doing. So keep that in mind also. And then the other thing I'm going to show you is when I created this second line, I was not on this symmetric line, it looks like. But that's a quick fix also. I can just make these equal as well. Okay, so don't necessarily erase and start over if it doesn't look exactly the way you want. Investigate why. All right, so now that I have this fully constrained, I'm going to go ahead and hit finish my sketch and see how we have this little diamond shape. So what we're going to do is we need to create a pattern around this cylinder to cut that little diamond shape out. So we're going to use a new command called coil. So let's go ahead and select coil. And notice as soon as I select coil, it selects that pattern that I've already created. The next thing I have to choose is what axes I want this pattern to rotate around. So we want to use the axes that's going through here, which is our Z axis. So let's go ahead and open this up and let's choose our Z. So notice as soon as I do, I get this little pattern here. So right now, this is the direction it's going to go, and that's the length. So the height here is from one side of your cylinder to the other side of your cylinder. So since mine's 0.75, that's what's in here. If I had 0.5, for example, notice that it stops before it gets to the outer side of this cylinder. So let's put that point back at 0.75. And then you have revolutions. So if I did 1 revolution, it's going to start here and it's going to go all the way around my cylinder one time to create that coil. So if I look at it straight from the top, there's the start, there's the end. It's gone one entire time around my cylinder. If I set this to 0.5, it's going halfway around my cylinder. So you can see how if I come to this side, it's from here and it stopped halfway and it still went the full distance of 0.75. So that's not going to change. So if I only wanted to go a small um, direction and not all the way around, I just want to create a quick little sweep here. That's why I'm putting in this 0.125 that we have here. So now it just kind of creates a small pattern that's 3/4 of an inch long, 0.75 inches long, and it's a 0.125 revolutions. So, all right, so let's go ahead and make sure you have cut chosen because we're not adding to it, but you could add to it if you wanted to. And let's select OK. So you'll see at this point we have this nice little cut in here that we just created. Well, the next thing we need to do is create this pattern all the way around our cylinder that we've already created. So I'm going to go up here and choose my 3D here circular pattern. And I'm going to select my feature, which is what I just cut. And I need to do my rotation axis again, or axes again, which is going to be around that Z. So see, now we have all these cuts that are going around. Well, if you've ever seen a knurl pattern, it's, it's going to cut about the same width of this, and it's going to go both ways. But to get it all the way around, we don't want it this far apart. We want them right next to each other. So I'm actually going to put 72 of these and see when I select and I look on here how now it's basically connected all the way across or all the way around my cylinder. And then I can go ahead and select OK. And we'll give it a second to go ahead and create the pattern there. And that's the first component of what we're going to do. Okay, so now we have half the pattern that we need to create the knurl, but we actually need this knurl to be the exact mirrored version of it as well to give you that kind of crisscross pattern. So what we're going to do is go ahead and select our 3D mirror, and we want to select both the coil and the circular pattern. So see how it's doing the coil is just the one piece, the circular is the one that went all the way around, and we need to choose a mirror plane. And here's where it's truly important that you extrude it both ways because it's going to mirror that pattern around this XY plane. So if I go ahead and select the XY plane and then select OK, and give it a second to render. There we go. And now we have that knurled pattern as you're looking at the piece. But if I look at it straight from the side here, see how we have this real sharp ridges on both sides? So we actually want to create a pattern to kind of chamfer those off or like sand those off there to give that appearance. So we're going to go ahead and we'll create another 2D sketch, and we're going to use our YZ plane. And we're going to go down here and we're going to use this slice feature. So that'll slice it in half for us so that we can see inside and we can actually work on this section view this way. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And what I want to do is create a construction line. And then I want to project my geometry. So I want to project the geometry at the very end points of my piece here. So see how that's actually too far. Let's do this one here. See how we have that intersection. And I'm going to go down here to the other side and do the same thing. Make sure we're right at that intersection point. And then I can just, whoops, there we go. I can just create a line between there. Now I don't have to do this, but it helps me make sure that I'm not too far into my piece. So let's go ahead and select that and go all the way to the other side there. And again, these are just references. These are not going to be noticed by any computer system, like if you did it in CAM software, as actual um, components of the part. So just keep that in mind also. So we're going to go ahead at this point, change back to take the construction off, and we're just going to create from that projected plane just a nice 45-degree angle here. Oops, hit that midpoint. We'll do 45. So we're not going to worry about constraining this part here, but we just wanted to, what we're doing is we're creating this piece here that's going to cut those rough edges off. So we can go ahead and finish our sketch. We're going to choose the revolve command. Notice it already chose that pattern that I just created, or that profile I just created. My axes I'm using is my Z axis, and I want to make sure I cut, don't add. And there you go. It's going to cut off that sharp point there. So now if we look at it from the right, see how now that's been kind of cut off for us. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to mirror this, and we want to choose the feature we just created, which is that revolution. My mirror plane, here's my XY plane, and see how it mirrors it on the other side, and select OK. And now it's taking those rough edges off both sides there. And if you want to, don't forget, you can always add a nice material for this. So we could come in here. Let's choose a nice material. Let's see here. We could do like a copper, or excuse me, bronze. Let's do a bronze. So you can see you have a bronze feature there. We could do the kind of the soft yellow bronze. We could do steel. Let's come down here and do some stainless steel. Select OK, and then just click off our part. So now we have a knurled piece.